Okay, Enke, you wanted me to combine everything? Why don't I just make it faster too, and better, and faster, and better, and combined, and smaller, and better? Well, you got just that. This is the combination of every farm I've made in the Create mod, but better, combined, and combined and better. So come sit down, grab some popcorn, join me in the process of explaining, building, and showing you what this machine has to offer. I'll have links to the schematic down in the description and also timestamps to different tutorial points and troubleshooting tips, and especially for you schematic people, don't click off yet. Make sure a little bit later in the video, I'll put the timestamp on the screen right now. I'm gonna have some schematic tips and tricks. You're gonna, at least for one, have to replace all the volts. So look in the chapters for that, or the screen has it. But let's get into how this thing works. Just as a preface, the version that I'm running this in is version 0.5.1.f. It will not work in 0.5.1.e. However, in the description, I'll also have a schematic for the 5.e version. I would highly, highly, highly recommend switching over to .f, because this Cobblestone Generator is about double the speed, the one that'll work in .e. So you'll get double the items with .f or even a previous version. So if you're back before E, whatever that is, A, B, C, D, D, or earlier, it should probably still work. I haven't tested it, but I know for sure it will not work in 5.1.e. The farm itself, as you can see, produces 13 unique items, including iron, gold, quartz, flint, clay, soul sand, all of the granite, diorite, and andesites, and cobblestone, stone, gravel, and sand. This is the control panel. You can place this really anywhere in your world, since it just uses Redstone Links to power the starting point. You also don't need a control panel at all if you have a fully automated setup. You can also just link it up to that. The only thing I recommend is probably don't change any of the Redstone Links unless you're changing a few in the farm itself. And if you're doing that, probably watch the tutorial. If you're not doing it, still watch this tutorial. I want the watch time. One last thing I forgot to mention before building the tutorial is that this thing uses about 24,000 stress units. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend building a steam engine. If you're scared about steam engines and that they're all scary, I have a video about how steam engines are not as complicated as you may think. And they're actually really small. So definitely look into steam engines if you haven't already, and check out the video on my channel if you're new to steam engines and want to learn more. Let's turn this thing on and kind of explain how this whole thing works. So, as I mentioned briefly, it kind of all starts with this Cobblestone Generator, and as you can tell, some crazy stuff is going on. This farm, I think, is initially designed by a YouTuber called Triobian, who I think claimed that they got it from someone in their Discord, so perhaps maybe not the original creator, but one of the first publishers, at least the earliest that I could find. And basically all it's doing is these pumps are dragging lava from the fluid tanks down into this block. At the same time, these waterlogged things are dropping water here, and since the lava is touching the water, it makes cobblestone. The cobblestone is broken by these trapdoors, which, as you can see, are moving back and forth pretty quickly. What happens is these trapdoors become a moving object, and thus the cobblestone can spawn. And as soon as they move, let's say over this block, they all become solid again, breaking all of the cobblestone. It then goes back, breaks it, breaks it, and continues, as you can see. A majority of the cobblestone is just picked up by this funnel and dropped onto the belt that heads up here. For iron generation, it goes into this item vault and just drops out to get crushed into gravel, since we need gravel to make iron. If it's not being crushed into gravel, it will just go onto this belt and be put in the cobblestone and stone droppers, which we'll talk about in a second. But if it is, it gets crushed into gravel, put over here and into this item vault, and then gets dropped out. And depending on what we're making, it will either get put into this item vault or drop down to the bottom there. When it's at the bottom here, it gets pushed over, washed by a fan, turned into flint and iron nuggets, and then put into this item vault here, and as you can see, yeeted into this basin, squished, plopped out, and put back in the storage system. Iron is a pretty easy one. If we were to do something like sand, sand is made by getting the gravel, which we already saw going into this item vault, throwing it onto this belt, it's getting crushed again, and it either goes into the storage system if you're just making sand, or it drops down again down here into the soul campfire to get turned into soul sand. And I suppose if we just turn that on, we can show you. You see the sand is dropping down here, and eventually it'll get turned into soul sand, and then the soul sand will be picked up by this funnel and put again back into this item vault, which then transports it back to the main storage system. Soul sand is also used if you wash it for quartz and gold, both of which are either dropped out here to be made for crafting of diorite and granite, and then the gold obviously is made into gold. And then the last major thing to talk about is this cobblestone storage area here. This is the only part that doesn't get crushed, and it creates either stone or cobblestone, both of which are, well, the stone first smelted and then just put in the storage system. The last thing the cobblestone is used for is back here with the diorite, andesite, and granite crafting. Obviously first it is used in diorite crafting to make the diorite, and then is additionally put into the andesite basin to make andesite. The quartz is gathered from, as we talked about earlier, washing the soul sand into quartz and gold, and that makes the nether quartz. Now let's talk about the rates that this farm gets. As I mentioned previously, we do get 13 different items in total. You obviously can't run everything at the same time. Just for your information, you can run all of these top ones at the same time and it will all work. However, these bottom ones are a little bit tricky. You can run either the granite and andesite one or diorite. If you turn on quartz gathering, it will not let you craft diorite or granite and andesite. And if you turn on soul sand, it will not let you get diorite, granite, andesite, or quartz. The iron is separate. That will just work. It probably won't work with gravel turned on, and the same with everything on this bottom row except for iron and sand being turned on. So the most amount of levers that you can have flicked are these two for cobblestone and stone, and then iron and granite and andesite. This will get you around about 44,000 cobblestone per hour, about 35,000 stone per hour, 1,000 clay, which is just a great byproduct, 4,000 flint, again, pretty okay byproduct, 120 iron per hour, which is a third of the iron farm video that I released about a month or so ago, 6,000 andesite, 3,000 granite, and 50 gold, which again, just a nice byproduct. If you're running just the soul sand, you will get around about 46,000 soul sand per hour, with 2,500 clay per hour and 5,000 flint per hour. If you're running just the iron farm portion of it, you are going to get 1,000 iron per hour. So if you remember from my previous iron farm video, this thing is quite a bit bigger. However, it is triple the speed of my kind of small entry-level iron farm that I unveiled in that video, and it's pretty much all due to this new Cobblestone Generator that again only works in version 0.5.1.f, not .e. If you're just running granite and andesite, you get about 6,000 andesite, 3,000 granite, 5,000 flint, 2,500 clay, and just as a fun byproduct, 12,500 quartz, which is plenty without even turning on quartz. If you do want to turn on quartz though, you can get about 24,000 quartz, so it pretty much doubles what you would get if you just have the andesite and granite on, and you also get around about 5,000 flint, about 2,500 clay, and 100 gold. I forgot to mention in the granite and andesite farm that you get 100 gold there as well. If you're just running diorite, you get about 6,000 diorite and around about 12,500 quartz, and perhaps even a little bit more since you're not using it to craft any granite. If you're running just cobblestone or stone, you're going to get 100,000 of either per hour. If you're running both at the same time, around about 50,000 for each. And then sand and gravel are a little bit slower since they have to go through the crushing wheels, but they generate about 50,000 items per hour. So now to go over what you need if you're using the schematic instead of building the tutorial. For the folks working on the tutorial, I already put a timestamp on the screen, but I'll do another one right now, and you can also look in the chapters down on the video. As I've said already, you're going to need to replace all of the item vaults. You don't need to replace every single block. It's probably just going to be 2 out of even a 3x3 will work. I would just replace 2 of each item vault here so that they are connected as you see right now. There are, again, 2 up top here, this 3 wide one, a 2x2, a 3x3, another 3x3, another 2x2 that's kind of hidden, and then a big one down here. I'm not sure how many you needed to replace for this. It was a few though. You also need to fill in both of these fluid tanks with 1 bucket of lava and to waterlog every single one of these mechanical pumps. I would also recommend that you just delete and replace this brass funnel. If you're running sand and gravel at the same time and you're only getting gravel as output, break this, let the sand place it on the belt quite a few times and then replace it, and that should fix it. You'll also need to place a soul campfire down at the end here on the very bottom level, right next to this redstone block. You'll also need to waterlog this oak leaf, and probably back up here, place down this lava source. One final thing that I forgot to mention is this basin for gold nuggets, when you place it with the schematic, will be spouting out, just like you see here, onto this belt. If you right click it with a wrench, it will stop that. Make sure you do that, or you're just going to get some gold in here and you're going to have some item loss over here, including some gold ingots, which we don't really want. One last thing for the schematic people, if you come just right back here, you can see a cauldron and a brass funnel. This will delete any item that you really want. I have it currently set up for flint if you don't want flint. If you don't want flint, just switch this brass funnels list filter to soul sand instead of the actual list filter, and that will prioritize throwing it out in the trash. Just make sure that this cauldron back here is filled with lava. If you don't want to do that, you can pretty easily just remove this brass funnel and cauldron and call it a day. And I think that should be it for schematic people. If you run into any issues, just let me know down in the comments and I should be able to help you fix it. So I think now it is time to get into the block by block tutorial. Just for your information, this is 7 blocks tall, 14 blocks deep, and 7 blocks wide. This does not include the storage system or the lever control panel. I am going to be adding that on as just a little addition. And if you want to do it this way, you can, but I would probably recommend having all of these items and control panels be in a central location. And that's why it's not being included in the actual footprint of the farm. But that's enough talking. Let's get into this thing. We're going to start off building on the bottom layer and working our way up. But the bottom layer, as you can see from over there, is 2 blocks below your normal floor level. So whatever your floor level is, go 2 blocks down right here, and then we're going to be building on this level here. So I would probably recommend just breaking a couple of blocks in the center here, just so we can get a little bit of a place to work. We're going to start by placing in the soul sand that the items are going to be pushed on. So if you're staring at the farm from the front, you're going to go to the center block, move over 2 until you get 1 away from the edge. And then, as I said, you're going to go 2 blocks down and place our first soul sand here in this spot right there. Then we're going to continue with 2 more soul sand blocks in a horizontal fashion, going straight to the center of the farm. And then from here, we're going to go 3 more blocks this way. So you have this L shape here with 3 blocks and another 3 this way. Once you have this L in, you can break these 2 temporary blocks. And then when you're standing in this corner, we're going to place a redstone link on receive mode in the middle of that soul sand block. If you're facing at it from the front, it's just there. And we're going to put sand in the red square. We're then going to come to the opposite side of that redstone link and place a T shape of whatever building block you're using with 3 redstone links all around this block here, all set to receive mode. You're going to put soul sand in the red square of this first one, and then diorite here on this one, and nether quartz here on this one. Once we've done that, we're going to head to the back here and break out kind of most of these blocks here. We're going to have to replace a few, but as you probably noticed, there's quite a bit going on in the floor over here, so it's not the end of the world if you break out most of your space here. We're then going to go to the back left-hand corner and then go 1 block diagonally in, so this section. And we're going to go down 2 blocks and place a block here. So if you stand on it, your face is like at floor level. And again, that is going to be in the back left-hand side over here. And then we're going to go over 2 temporary blocks. We're going to need to break some blocks over here and then place 3 real blocks in an L shape like this. So you get a pattern that kind of looks like this. Then it's time to place some redstone torches and redstone links. So on this lone block facing towards the back of the build, we're going to place 1 redstone torch and a redstone link on either side, both set to receive mode, with this one being diorite and this one over here being granite on top, andesite on the bottom. Then we're going to come over here to this corner and place 2 more redstone links, both on receive mode, with this one being set to iron nuggets and this one gravel. So you should have 4 redstone links with a redstone torch on these 4 blocks. And then I just removed the rest of these floor blocks. It's not the end of the world if you don't do that. And then when you're standing on this block with a redstone torch on it, you're going to build 3 blocks this way and place a shaft that should be pointing into this 3rd block, which you can then remove. So there should just be kind of a shaft floating in nowhere for now, but it will connect up to another one later on. Then on this same block, we're going to place a building block on top of the redstone torch with 2 redstone links next to it. We're going to set this left one to receive and put cobble on the top, diorite on the bottom. And then on this one over here, we're going to set the top to granite and the bottom one to cobblestone, set to not receive. We're then going to head over to this L-shaped thing here, and we're going to place down one of the first of the latch systems. So we're going to place a redstone block here, just place a temporary block or something, and it should be like hanging off the edge like this. We're then going to place a power latch facing towards this weird system here with a redstone link with gravel in both slots like this, and then a redstone dust here that, if it gets powered, will turn off the gravel like this, and if it gets unpowered, it'll turn it back on. We're then going to go over to this side of the redstone block and place a normal gearbox with a shaft going into it here and here, another shaft connected with a belt like this, and then 2 more shafts connected to this belted shaft again with a belt. We're then going to need a temporary block on this kind of stepping stair redstone link thing, and 2 volt pieces next to each other, not connected yet, and then make it 2x2 and move this 4 blocks over. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks like this in a 2x2 vault. We're then going to come over to this side of the vault and place 4 redstone torches with 4 redstone links above it, each one with a redstone torch in the blue. And then we're going to have gravel over on this far left side, cobblestone in the left middle, stone on the right middle, and soul sand on the far right. This will also be a good time to put in some more redstone links on the bottom of this item vault, all set to receive mode. And we're going to follow the same pattern up here. So gravel, cobblestone, stone, and soul sand, with gravel over here, then cobblestone, then stone, then soul sand. We're then going to come over to this soul sand section and make another one of these powered latch systems. So we're going to place a redstone block on top of the stone here, a powered latch coming out of the redstone block into a redstone link with sand in both red and blue sections, and then we're just going to place 2 pieces of redstone dust on either side of the powered latch. Then on the end of this double sand redstone link, we're going to place an oak leaf, fill it with water, and then place an encased fan on the opposite side of it, facing into the oak leaves. We're then going to place a normal gearbox with 3 shafts like this, and then another gearbox with a shaft like this, so it should be 1 block away from the redstone block here. We're then going to place a large cogwheel here, and then another one like this, so that they're connected on the corner like this. Then we're going to place an encased fan facing towards us this way. Then we're going to need a temporary block and a vertical gearbox facing towards this way, like so. We're then going to need 2 shafts going towards us like this, and then another one here with a mechanical belt for both of those. We're then going to place 2 brass funnels going onto the belt like this. The first one, you're going to set a filter for soul sand, and then the next one, you're going to put in gold nuggets, iron nuggets, flint, cobblestone, and nether quartz. Once you've done that, you can put that in this filter here, and then we can come over here and place 2 more shafts like this, so they're horizontal, connect both of them with a belt, and then again place another shaft connecting to this one in line with the gearbox, but since this is a vertical gearbox, this gearbox and this shaft should not be connected. And then before I forget, you're also going to want to place a shaft here. Do not connect either with a belt yet. We're going to place some more shafts up here. So just leave those as shafts for right now. We're then going to place one more large cogwheel over here, again in a weird connected way like this, so that it's connected with the corner. Then on the other side of this belt, we're going to place a block with a torch on the far side like this. We're going to grab another redstone link, set it to receive mode, and put in nether quartz. And then the last thing we're going to need to do is hook up this shaft over here all the way over to this one right here. This should not be connected to this shaft here, as this one is going to head upwards. Then the last thing we need to do on this level is place a block right next to the oak leaves with a redstone torch on the side of the soul sand and a redstone link set to receive mode with iron nuggets in the red square there. Then we're going to come to the back here. We're going to place a redstone torch with a block on top of it like this. We're then going to come over to the vault and place a funnel coming out of the vault on this corner here. And we're going to jump over to these belts, and from the gearbox, we're going to place a smart chute down here with diorite as the filter, one directly next to it with andesite as the filter, and then one next to that with granite as the filter. On the diorite chute, we're going to place a redstone link set to receive mode with granite in red, andesite in blue. We're then going to grab another large cogwheel and place it again in this weird kind of corner connecty way to this one down here, with a small cogwheel connected to this one, like this. We're then going to place a normal block above this redstone torch with a smart chute connected to it. This will be where the quartz gets dumped out at, which is why over here, if you turn on quartz, this will turn off and start delivering quartz up to the player. And then right here, we're going to place a 3x3 volt, like this. It's all big and right there. And then we're going to place another smart chute here, and we're going to set the filter to gold ingots. We're then going to grab a shaft and place it in between both these chutes, going eventually upward that way. And then we're going to get a brass funnel coming out of the item vault and set a filter to soul sand and flint, and just place that in the funnel. This will eventually send it up back towards the storage system. Then right above the funnel and this chute, we're going to place two basins. This left one going to be iron, this right one gold. And then we're going to place another funnel here set to quartz facing out. Eventually, this is going to be a belt, so it'll be out onto this belt like this. Then we're going to come to this side of the item vault here, and we're going to place a funnel going into the item vault. And just for safety purposes, so you don't lose any items, I'm going to place a block here right next to this belt so that when the belt's moving, it won't just fly items off, either for me into the void, but probably for you just into the floor. That wouldn't be great. And now it is Gearbox time. So if you've seen any of my tutorials, you know that I love gearboxes. We're going to go over to here where the quartz redstone link is and place two normal gearboxes on top of that and the encased fan. We're then going to grab 3 vertical gearboxes, place them all the way along here until they get right above this belt. Then over here, we're going to place 2 more vertical gearboxes facing like this. I'm going to come over to this end, place 2 more vertical gearboxes like that, and then 1 more like this. We're then going to come over to the front here where the redstone torch and iron nugget redstone link are, and we're going to place 3 volt blocks on the ground like this with a brass funnel going into the volt blocks like this with no filter on it or anything. Then we can start filling in a couple of these blocks with just normal floor blocks. This can be any block that you'd really like, and it's going to go up until this point where we're going to need 2 redstone links, the left one set to receive mode, and put andesite in the blue, granite in the red, and then this one over here, you're just going to put diorite in the red here, and that should be a transmitting redstone link. We're then going to get 2 more building blocks and put them on top of the powered latch and the redstone block, and right on top of this redstone wire, you're going to place a redstone link here, set to receive mode, and put sand in the red square. We're then going to come back over to the front here, and we're going to place a redstone link there, set to receive mode, and put a redstone torch in the blue square with soul sand in the red square. And this should turn on if this redstone link inverted system is working correctly. Then we're going to move back here and place down 4 mechanical crafters in a 2x2 square like this. You might need to break some blocks just to get to them. You're going to want to right click them with a wrench until you get them in the orientation that you want. I would recommend the bottom 2 just going straight upward, this right one going to the left, and then this one has to go to the left because we're going to place volt blocks here in a 2x2 orientation like this. So this arrow, this crafting thing in total must go directly into this item vault. We're then going to do the same thing right above it. So another 2x2 set of mechanical crafters, again, pointing into the item vault here. So set the top two to just go straight down, this right one to go left, and then this left one to go into the item vault. And it should be kind of mirrored top to bottom. So these two go up and these two go down, and then both of the middle ones just go left to go into the item vault. Then on the opposite side, we're going to do the same thing. This time, it doesn't super matter which orientation you go. I'm going to go up, up, and then over here across and across. So these two go up, and then this one goes to the right into the item vault. Now let's move on to the item storage process. Again, as I said earlier, you can really do whatever you want with this, whatever fits your needs. I'm just going to do something really basic here, where we just have a belt going into some drawers. You can use chests, you can use refined storage, any mod or normal system that you're using will work. I'm just going to use drawers just so you can see that all the items are coming in and such. And it really is pretty simple. So wherever you're going, just bring a belt over. This will go directly this way to the left across the farm. If you want to switch that, just break this gear shift and replace it with a shaft. But I, of course, want it to go this way, so I'm going to connect these two like this. I'm going to grab two brass funnels, take them out of the item vault like this. One of them, I'm setting a list filter to cobblestone with the deny list selected. This will drop every item except for cobblestone onto this belt and into the storage system. The other funnel, I'm going to put cobblestone as the filter. So we're dropping everything but cobblestone here, and then just cobblestone here. Then we're going to put a redstone link on top of the cobblestone funnel like this, set it to receive mode, and put a redstone torch in the blue and cobblestone in the red. Again, this should turn on and lock this funnel if this inverted system back here is working properly. Then we're going to head over to the right-hand side here and make another 2x2 vault. This is going to be for all of the things that we make along this way. So granite, andesite, diorite, iron, gold, quartz, and soul sand. On the front of this vault, we're just going to place a brass funnel going out onto the belt like this. And that is pretty much all we need to do to actually distribute the items. As I said earlier, I'm just going to grab some drawers. It stores 13 items in total. So if you're doing drawers or something like that, just make sure it holds up to at least 14 items. And then on the back, I'm just going to do a bunch of brass funnels. I don't care about the filters really, and that is the whole front portion all done. We're then going to come to the back of this item vault here and place a shaft horizontally that we can now connect with this shaft in the ground here. And this should do two things. First, get in the iron basin to drop out onto this belt, which is what we want. And then down there, that brass funnel should have changed shape just a little bit. I guess we can show you again. Just watch the brass funnel. As I connect this, it should change just a little bit. So that's when you know it will drop itself onto this belt. And then we're going to need just one more brass funnel that goes straight into the item vault like this. So all of the items are going to go up here and into the item vault like so. Then while we're over here, we're going to place a vertical gearbox on top of this gearbox here, facing this way, another one here facing the same way, and a block between the two. Then as we move over, we're going to place an encased fan facing straight upward with a depot right next to it and a cauldron right next to that. Now this cauldron is optional. This is going to be so you can delete the flint if you don't want it. If that is the case, then grab this list filter here, remove it, because that was dropping flint and soul sand onto the belt, and just put soul sand on there. Then back here, we're going to want to get a brass funnel facing out of the item vault here, set the filter to flint, and then place lava in this cauldron here. Again, you only need to do this if you want to throw out the flint before you store it, which does mean you can reduce the amount of storage to just 12 items, which is a perfect 3 2x2 drawers. But if you want to store the flint, you can just remove this and it will still work perfectly fine. Just make sure that this brass funnel is set to drop out both flint and soul sand. I, however, am going to just throw out the flint because the farm over there keeps it for us, so we know all the rates and stuff anyway. Right next to the cauldron, we're going to place another vertical gearbox facing up like this, a vertical gearbox that is not connected to this one, so it should be kind of diagonal like this, a normal gearbox here, a shaft, and then another normal gearbox with an encased fan facing towards the front here. We're then going to need 2 shafts going like this with a belt between them, another shaft here, and one more here with a belt between these two. We're then going to need a block next to this encased fan, a trapdoor here, and a lava source here. This can be any non-flammable trapdoor, so the ones in the nether both work, but I'm going to be honest, when you have this many brass funnels, I think you can afford 4 or 6 iron or whatever it is. Before we cover this whole thing up for good, I'm going to recommend you place in the soul fire here now. It should go directly in front of the encased fan, in between the encased fan and the redstone wire, just like that there. And then after that, on the edge of this belt, right over this brass funnel, you're going to place a brass chute, a brass funnel going into it, and set the filter here to stone. We're then going to place 2 more brass funnels, one going into the item vault here, set this to gravel, and then one coming out off of this belt and set this one to sand. We're then going to come back out the front here, place down a redstone link, set it to receive mode, put a torch in blue and a gravel piece in red, and this should turn on, locking this brass funnel here. We're then going to head over here to the mechanical crafter area. We're going to place 2 basins on top of both of the smart chutes here, set this back one to andesite, so it should be right above the andesite smart chute, and the same thing with granite above the granite. Going to place 2 hoppers going into each basin like this, and then we're going to place 2 smart chutes on top of both of the hoppers, just like this. We're then going to come to the opposite side of these basins, place a block next to this vertical gearbox, a vertical gearbox next to the hopper, like this, with a rotation speed controller going into it. Then we're going to skip a block next to the item vault, place another rotation speed controller, make sure it's facing this way, and a normal gearbox facing into this like this. Now, depending on which orientation you build this farm in, you might need to switch this to clockwise, but I'm going to stick to counterclockwise, and this one should be all the way up to 256 RPM. Start with counterclockwise for everything, and if everything is backwards, just switch it over to clockwise. But start with counterclockwise and set this first one to 256, and then this back one, set it to 10 in the same direction. So this one is counterclockwise for me, and this one should be 2. Now this gearbox over here is what you're going to put your power into, so you can either bring power up from the bottom just through here like this, or what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place a shaft and a creative motor and get power just from the back over this way. I wouldn't put in power just yet, because we'll want to set up the clutch and get everything built before we connect it to power, just in case something breaks weirdly. Now, in the back here, we're going to place a redstone link on this block here right above the torch, set it to receive mode, and put cobblestone in the red square like this. And then after that, we're going to get some redstone dust and slabs and build a fun little staircase type of thing going up like this. So redstone dust on this block, a slab above it, another slab, let's see, above this one like this with another redstone dust piece on top of that. So you should get this kind of cascading staircase that goes up 1, 2, 3 blocks like so. We're now going to come back over here to these 2 rotation speed controllers and place 2 large cogwheels on top of them, and it should connect like this. Then next to this large cogwheel, we're going to place a clutch, and then we're going to place a vertical gearbox on top of this one connected to the clutch, another vertical gearbox connected to this large cogwheel here, and a shaft on the other side of this large cogwheel here. Then before we get too carried away, try to navigate under the build here to underneath this clutch to place a redstone link set to receive mode. We're going to want a clutch in the red square and a redstone dust in the blue square. Then over by these basins and item vault, we're going to place 2 andesite funnels coming out of the item vault into the basin. And then over here, we're going to place another vertical gearbox with a gearbox next to it, a gearbox on top of this gearbox, and a shaft connecting the 2. We're then going to place 2 sets of crushing wheels on both gearboxes here. So you should have something that looks a little bit like this. Then next to the crushing wheels on the side of the cauldron with lava in it, we're going to place a Smart Chute on top of the encased fan with an Andesite funnel going into it, like this. And then on the opposite side of the Smart Chute, we're going to place another vertical gearbox here and here with a normal gearbox connecting the two. So you should get this like kind of corner shape here. Next, we're going to place 2 brass funnels going out for this one and then in to the vault here. Set this one's filtered to cobblestone. And then we're going to put a redstone link on the side of this one. Set it to receive mode, put granite in red and cobblestone in the blue. This is powered on for me, but I'm pretty sure this will come later on. So if it's not powered, don't worry too much. Then the final thing we just need to do here is put a shaft connecting to this gearbox in front of this crushing wheel here. We're then going to come over here to the left side of this item vault, where we're going to place a temporary block and then a normal building block. We can remove that temporary block and place a redstone torch on the side of this building block. On the opposite side, we're going to place a redstone link set to receive mode, the redstone torch in blue and a lever in the red. This is going to be used when you're using your control panel. If you want to turn on the farm, these will turn on this redstone link, letting the farm actually run. We're then going to head to the back right behind this crushing wheel and place the final rotation speed controller right up against this gearbox. And we're going to set this to 170 RPM. This can be clockwise or counterclockwise. It does not matter. I'm just going to keep it as counterclockwise just so that it's the same for all 3. Now I think it's best if we get started on the actual cobblestone generator. First, we're going to be placing down 10 andesite funnels like this. And we're going to need some creativity of temporary blocks here. And they should all be facing downwards into the item vault just to pick up any excess cobblestone that gets dropped. Then let's head over to this rotation speed controller and place a large cogwheel on top with 2 gantry shafts going like this. And then you're going to shift and put another gantry shaft, 2 of them like this. And these should not be connected. After that, we're going to grab 2 gantry carriages and place them facing downwards from the gantry shafts, 1 block apart like this. Underneath those, we can place 2 linear chassis like this. And then we're going to need to break the andesite funnel behind it just temporarily. Place any block that you'd like. Then place a brass funnel coming out of the temporary block, going just down onto that shaft there. That will eventually be a belt going upward. You can then break that barrel and replace the andesite funnel heading downward. Then we're going to place a barrel above the brass funnel between the 2 gantry carriages. And then we're going to need to come over here, grab our glue, right click it onto the linear chassis so it connects to the andesite funnel in front of it. And then holding a wrench, looking at the linear chassis, you're going to need to right click on this 8 and reduce it to 1. Then we can glue this entire system together. So just right click here and bring it all the way here and glue this entire 2x3 section here together. Now we can get on to placing the trapdoors. So we're going to get 1 full block distance between the temporary blocks that we're placing and these andesite funnels, and we're going to place a smooth trapdoor on the top of this block here. You can then break that block, and then we're just going to build along the way here with the spruce trapdoors and place them all directly above the andesite funnels like this until you get to the end. You should now have 10 spruce trapdoors, and just for OCD's sake, I'm going to have them all face the right way. And then once you've done that, we can glue all of the andesite funnels and trapdoors together. So come over here, right click the andesite funnel, and then come over here and connect it to the spruce trapdoors. So this should all be glued together. This linear chassis should have a glue piece connecting to the andesite funnel, and it should be set to 1. This will not work if this is set to anything above 2, so just set it to 1 and it should work flawlessly. Above these trapdoors, starting from the side where the rotation speed controller and large cogwheel are, we're going to start placing down our mechanical pumps. If you shift down and place them while standing above them, they will go down into the trapdoors, which is what we want, and we want to place 8 in total, going along like this, leaving this last one blank. Now the next thing we need to do is place more trapdoors, or any other block really, around these mechanical pumps so that when water is filled in, it won't just fly away. So place in some trapdoors or any other building blocks. I would just recommend trapdoors around here, except for this one spot. Once you get over to this side, we're gonna, on top of this gearbox, place a shaft. On top of this large cogwheel. Hopefully, if it'll let me, place a small, normal sized cogwheel that should connect to this mechanical pump. And then we'll just continue with the normal trapdoors around the mechanical pumps like this. And you should now have this thing fully encased in trapdoors. Then we can waterlog this. Be a little bit careful that you don't accidentally waterlog a trapdoor here. But once you waterlog 5 of these mechanical pumps, the rest of the water should fill in. And then once you've done that, we're going to place in our tanks. We should have 2 2x2 tanks right next to each other. And then we're going to get 2 lava buckets and put 1 bucket in each tank. So if you look into it, you should have lava in both of these. Now, technically, these spruce trapdoors don't need to be up if you don't want them to. I just think it looks a little bit better. So I'm keeping them up just like this. Once that is done, we're going to come over to the mechanical crafter side and place 2 shafts up against this gearbox here. And then all the way up here, we're going to place 2 more shafts above these smart chutes. This should now connect all the way down to this bottom one, connecting to the quartz funnel here. If this gold basin tries to shoot out items here, don't let it. Make sure that it doesn't start shooting stuff out here. For me, that just happened to be the case, but if for you, this kind of like weird shoot thing is going on, just right click it with a wrench and that should fix it. We're then going to place another set of belts right next to it. So these 2 should just be belts going up like this. And then we're going to grab the 2 mechanical mixers that we need and place them right on top of these basins and andesite funnels here. Then let's grab the mechanical arms. We're going to right click this close chute that quartz will be on. Right click it once so that it's blue. And then right click all of these mechanical crafters twice so they are yellow. And the same thing on the back here, doing this one and this one diagonally. You can now place this right here, and you should see at the bottom, mechanical arm has 1 inputs and 6 outputs. We're going to do the same thing again. So right click on the close smart chute and then diagonally, all 4 of these like this, and then the same thing on the back side. And then we're going to place another mechanical arm directly on top of the one we just placed. We're going to do almost the same thing, this time with the smart chute on the back side here. This one is going to be for cobblestone, and we're doing the opposite pattern here, just like this. So these 2, and then a pattern that should be the inverse of what you did for quartz. We're just going to place this right next to the ones for quartz, and again, you should see 1 inputs and 6 outputs. We're going to do that one final time. So right click the smart chute here for it to be blue, and then diagonally here, make sure you click them twice so they're yellow. And then the same thing on the front side here, and then place it on top of this one. We're then going to grab the second clutch and place it on top of this gearbox that's 1 away from the clutch here. We're going to place 2 cogwheels next to each other so that this one should connect up with these mechanical arms here. We're going to place another cogwheel here so that it connects to the mechanical crafter, and a vertical gearbox here so that it connects to this cogwheel. We're then going to connect up these mechanical crafters by placing 2 more cogwheels like this. Then we're going to place a cogwheel here, here, 2 vertical gearboxes like this, connecting this cogwheel down here with this shaft, and then 2 more vertical gearboxes here to connect this clutch with this cogwheel. We're then going to come over to the side here and place a couple of different funnels. This one should just line up straight up with this belt. We're going to put a cobblestone in there. And then we need 2 more brass funnels coming out of the item vault. This left one for iron nuggets, the right one for gold nuggets. We can then connect up the mechanical presses for both of these. So you're just going to place 2 on top of both basins like this, rotate them so they're connected and facing this way. Then we can connect a shaft to a normal gearbox, to 2 shafts like this, and then a vertical gearbox connecting to these gearboxes down there. You're then going to need to grab 2 threshold switches and place them on top of this item vault here, the left one having cobblestone as the filter, and the right one having nether quartz. Right click on the nether quartz threshold switch and set this to 15% at the top one and 5% for the bottom one. Over at the cobblestone one, do a similar thing with 20% and 5% again. You're then going to need to grab your item vault blocks and place them first on top of that smart chute, and then 2 more blocks this way so that it's in line with these brass funnels. We're then going to need a shaft, place it next to the item vault one diagonally away from this other shaft, connect it with a belt, place a building block on the end of this belt like this. Then we're going to place down 2 funnels, place this one first above this belt here, and then the second one we're going to place here, and then we're going to place another brass funnel connected to this belt, dumping out into these crushing wheels. Set the filter to gravel here. We're then going to come over here and place 2 shafts next to each other like this, connect them with a belt, and then on the opposite side, right above this crushing wheel, we're going to place a gearbox connected to this shaft, another shaft next to the gearbox like this, and then we're finally going to be able to connect this shaft all the way down to this shaft way down here, and you should see that this brass funnel changes shape a little bit and is now going to drop all of its items up onto this belt. Last thing you need to do is place a building block at the end of this belt here and above this redstone torch like this. And then we just need a smart chute here, and I would set the filter to cobblestone. You don't need to do this, but I just like having filters so that I know if accidentally some items go in here, it won't break or make something be stuck. We can then place another item vault on top of the gearbox and this brass funnel with a brass funnel on this side and on the opposite side here, and set both of these filters again to cobblestone. We're then going to place another vault right next to it with a brass funnel going into that vault, again with the filter set to cobblestone. Underneath this vault, we're going to place 2 more filters, both coming out of the item vault here, and you're going to right click on both of these and move this to exactly 16 for both here. And now that we've done that, I would also recommend right clicking on this brass funnel, the one dropping it onto the belt, and clicking exactly 64. That just makes it so that the stone and cobblestone that comes out here is as balanced as possible. The last thing we need to deal with these funnels is 2 redstone links on the front of them. One with stone in red and the redstone torch in blue. This should be on. The other one with 2 cobblestone, which we haven't gotten to yet, so this should not be on yet for you. We're then going to come to this side of the item vault and place another brass funnel going into the item vault here, and a redstone link here with the clutch on red and redstone dust on blue. We're then going to come over here to these 2 funnels and place 2 redstone links, both set to receive mode, with this close one being double gravel and this back one being double sand. And these should both be on. We're then going to put 2 more redstone links on top of both of these threshold switches, both set to transmit mode. This first one should have cobblestone in red, diorite in blue, and the second one should just have quartz in red. We're then going to grab another threshold switch and put it on this item vault here with a redstone link connected to it, cobblestone in red, item vault in blue. We're going to put cobblestone in the filter for this threshold switch, and then we're going to set the threshold switch to 98% and 60%. We need to then place the other half of this redstone link, which is going to go right here. So place a redstone link set to receive mode on this gearbox here, right above the clutch. Again, with cobblestone in red and item vault in blue. What this will do is if this is too full, we will stop making cobblestone until it reaches around about 60%, and then it will start making cobblestone again. This is for things like pretty much anything but something that would drop out cobblestone and stone. We make too much cobblestone to deal with because the crushing wheels aren't fast enough, so we turn it off just to save on items and lag. We're then going to come to the back here, and I did make a mistake while talking about how to build this. So we're going to quickly place some temporary blocks on either side here, and we're going to delete this redstone for the time being and place a temporary block here. And then what we're going to need to do is break both of these trapdoors and replace them with solid blocks here. And then we can delete the 3 temporary blocks we placed, replace this redstone dust, and now we can actually get to the very, very last thing that we need in order for this to be complete. We're going to place a powered latch facing in towards the rest of the machine with a redstone link right here with cobblestone in both red and blue sections. We're then going to place a redstone block on the other side of this powered latch, and that is it. This should now turn on the double cobblestone thing here for you, and if it doesn't, just give this a update with just a block next to it, and that should fix it. Now to set up the control panel, it is really simple. It is just a wall of levers. You're just going to need a 4 tall wall. This doesn't even have to be a wall if you want a different setup. and then levers all the way along like this, with redstone links on the top and bottom. You're going to need 5 for the bottom and 4 for the top. On the back side here, we're going to put 4 redstone links and then bottom blocks here. And then we're just going to need redstone dust here underneath these redstone links. Now it's time to fill in all of the redstone links. So these back ones are going to have a lever up in the red and a redstone torch down in the blue, just like this. And then you're going to need to grab one of pretty much every block and place them all in the red square up here. So for the top ones, I would do sand, gravel, cobblestone, and stone. And then the bottom ones can really be in whatever order you like. I'm going to put soul sand, nether quartz, diorite, granite, and andesite, and finally iron nuggets there. Now, to test this, we obviously need to connect it to some sort of power, so I would recommend doing that now. I obviously am just going to hook it up to a creative motor. It doesn't matter the speed that's going in, it will be converted to what speed we need for it, so just really any sort of power that you need. So now we can test this thing. Let's first start out with an easy one with just cobblestone, and you should see, first of all, this cobblestone generator is working and it's dropping cobblestone on this belt. And as you can see, this isn't moving. That is just because we forgot a shaft here right underneath the rotation speed controller right here. And it is that easy of a fix. So once this is happening, we can now see that first of all, cobblestone is going into this smart chute and being crushed, but we should now see that it is also going into this item vault, dropping out here and going into our storage system. It is literally already filled up one of the 4 storage spaces, but we should see everything now coming in here. We can switch this to stone to see items dropping out onto here and hopefully getting smelted. And it is in fact working. We're getting stone as an output here, which is great to see. Moving on now, we can try gravel. You can see this seems to be working. Yep, we're already getting a bunch of gravel. And what about sand? Sand also seems to be working. We'll have to see in a second there. Yep, we're getting sand and also flint and clay, which are both great to see. Let's now try flint and gravel, because as you might know, there is sometimes an issue with it over prioritizing gravel. So we're just making sure here that the sand is being prioritized because the belt is going to be slower than gravel. That looks to be working. If it isn't for you, it's really, really simple of a fix. Just break this close gravel funnel, wait a couple of seconds, and then just replace it. And it should then prioritize the one for sand. We can also then prioritize soul sand generation. And we can now go down below here and see if it is working. It seems to be. Now this should 100% of the time convert this sand to soul sand before it gets to the water. And it looks like it is, which is really good news. And then in a second here, it should come around this corner and get picked up by the soul sand brass funnel and brought back into the storage system. There we go. We just saw it get picked up and beautiful. We're getting soul sand in here. Now we can switch this to, let's say, just quartz. And we should see the soul sand, instead of getting picked up, it will get converted into gold and quartz, and then picked up by this brass funnel over here. There we go. It just got converted into quartz and gold, and it'll just take a little bit longer to get to this brass funnel and picked up. There we go. It just got picked up, and if we can see, yep, we are getting quartz. Now let's try diorite. This should have a very similar system. However, we should be getting cobblestone getting dropped out. If this is still red, that means the system back here is incorrect somehow. When diorite is enabled, you should see down there that that is on, powering, or I suppose depowering this redstone torch, powering this one, and powering this whole line, making cobblestone drop out. It should also make it so that this granite and cobblestone redstone link is depowered, dropping cobblestone down below onto the ground here. And we should see, hopefully, yes, wonderful, in these crafting things, that diorite is being crafted. This is a really good example of something that we don't want to happen. So as soon as we started up the machine, this gold basin is emptying out onto this belt. As I mentioned before, just right click it with a wrench and that will stop. So these weird crafting things with gold in it will no longer happen. Just make sure you look in both of the basins to make sure gold is not in either of them. You might also be able to notice that these andesite funnels are being prioritized over the Smart Chute down here. All I had to do to fix that was break these two Andesite funnels, wait a minute, replace them. If this doesn't work for you, all you have to do is break both of these, break the Smart Chute down here, replace it, but don't forget to also replace the Redstone Link, set to receive mode with Granite and Andesite here, and then replace the Andesite funnels, and that should fix it. And we should see that we are getting quite a bit of diorite, and yes, we are getting a bunch of diorite. We kind of accidentally tested the Granite and Andesite, but we might as well also do that one. This should only craft Granite and Andesite, and you should see the diorite funnel being locked. And yes, it is crafting both of those, which is great. The last things we want to check to make sure that are happening is that this threshold switch is working properly and sending an accurate signal over to stop cobblestone dropping out of this item vault, which it is. And then we just need to wait to see when this quartz one is fully at the threshold. Now we should see quite soon that this is going to go over, power the quartz thing here, and depower the chute, letting the extra quartz go back into the storage system. This is now overfilled and dropping out any of the extra quartz from the item vault just so that nothing overflows. We should see pretty soon, yep, this locks again, and we still have enough quartz to make enough granite and andesite. The last thing we need to test is iron. This should be pretty straightforward. We just need to verify that, first of all, gravel is dropping down, and this thing should be powered. This should be powering a funnel that would pick up gravel, but it shouldn't, and should now be washing gravel a bunch. And if you run this after running one of the other granite and andesite or something like that ones, you will get a ton of iron really, really quickly. And if you're running a mod like me, you will get a farm leakage error because the game thinks that you have a farm leak, which you don't. It's a feature, not a bug, but this should pretty soon wash all of this gravel into iron nuggets, and you should see over here crushing a boatload of iron nuggets into iron ingots and dumping it onto this belt and throwing it into the storage system. I actually lied. That wasn't the last thing we needed to test. The last thing we need to test is that things work at the same time. So the biggest one is going to be stone and cobblestone here. We want them to be as even as we can make it, and it looks like it is working correctly. If it isn't for you, I would make sure that both of these are set to 16 and that this output one is set to 64, and make sure it's set to exactly 64 and not up to. I suppose the next thing we can do is turn on andesite and granite and also iron just to see if everything works at the same time, especially including sand and gravel, which we already kind of checked, but it's nice to see if the subcomponents of each actually work. And it does look like they do. And again, if these things aren't semi-level, like if you're getting all cobblestone and no stone, or all gravel and no sand, let me know down in the comments if you haven't been able to figure it out, because I'll be happy to help. And this thing's super complicated, so I understand you not getting it. It took me so long to build this tutorial, because even though I made it, I don't know what's going on. So definitely do not worry, do not be afraid to ask, and just leave a comment if you're confused about anything. But that is the end of this video. It's an hour long, so I do apologize for that, but I hope this machine is as fun and powerful as I think it is for you. And let me know down in the comment section if this has been helpful, or if this machine has made your day or week or month, or if it's just kind of cool, because I think it is. And let me know down in the comment section if there's anything else machine-wise that you want me to make, and I'll put it on my list of things. So thank you all so much for watching. If you've gotten to this point in the video and you're not subscribed, you should absolutely subscribe. But that's it. All right, peace.